As at Georgia, while we're lacking in other natural resources as far as renewable energy, this is one that we do have abundance in, and we'd like for them to recognize that. And I also have Steve McWilliams from Georgia Forestry, and Lauren, your new name is? Bush. Okay, Lauren Bush, I knew her as her maiden name, from the Georgia Forestry Commission to testify if needed.
Somebody was going to say that.
The Forestry Commission just wants to say how much we support this and how important it is to us. And if I could, Mr. Chairman, I have a few maps to hand out to the committee that just a picture's worth 1,000 words, and this will show you exactly what Representative Ball was talking about. And if you just look at the first picture is what qualifies under the 2008 Farm Bill definition, and the second picture is what would qualify under the 2007 Energy Act. Currently, Congress is debating a renewable electricity standard. They're considering using that second picture instead of the first one as their definition for that. You can see the first picture is what would qualify with the Farm Bill, and the second is what would qualify under the Energy Act.
Paul Ferris brought this by the other day.
Yes, sir, and he would love to be here this morning. He's stuck in traffic on I-75. They shut down the whole interstate.
Right,
so.
I heard that. I think he would back up what y'all saying.
Oh, yes, sir, absolutely. He has actually been up in Washington last week meeting with our congressional delegation to urge their support, and Senator Saxby Chambliss has co-sponsored a bill in the Senate to address this very issue.
Does anybody have any questions?
One more question, Mr. Chairman. The pulp and paper company, I know the Forestry Commission is not representing that, but how do they feel about this? Well, I think that Mr. James, anything that is going to increase the use of trees is going to increase continued reforestation and afforestation in the state of Georgia. And the more trees there are, throughout the state, and I think, the more access all markets will have to wood and fiber from our forests. What the pulp and paper industry is concerned about is when there are unfair incentives that create inequities between an emerging biomass industry and an existing pulp and paper industry. Of course, we're not talking about.
We keep the tree nursery going in the budget.
Yes, sir. On the house side, absolutely.
Just, we just got to keep it in there on the other side.
Yes,
okay. Anybody, Lee?
Mr. Chairman, I'm just wondering, Representative Dennis, did you do your research?
I did, and I wondered if you could use.
Farmers and
well, what I wanted to know is if you could use the extra grass from baseball fields as part of the biomass. Does Representative Cole have an opinion on that?
I just want to request from the chairman that my seatmate here to do a recorded vote so I can positively know that he voted for me.
What would happen if we moved to table this, Mr. Chairman? Will this come up again next year?
I don't know, but he's pretty accurate with a baseball steel. I don't know if I'd.
I only have one person on this committee that actually did me pretty well.
Does anybody else have any questions? Go ahead. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Is that recorded enough?
That's recorded in there.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank y'all.
All right, 583, Representative England.
Well, it looks like we got live batteries in the microphone. I can't tell if it's working though. Mr. Chairman.
Does anybody on the committee have any questions for Terry? All right. We have Cheryl McCauley. If you want to come up and tell us what you think, please, ma'am.
Here we go. Okay, thank you again, Mr. Chairman, and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Cheryl McAuliffe. I represent the Humane Society of the United States, and I'm here this morning on behalf of our more than 185,000 member constituents to submit this testimony in opposition to this resolution. The horse has been an American icon. It is like our bald eagle. It's the symbol of freedom, of independence. It is a symbol of our heritage as a nation. Our country was built on horses, on the backs of horses. However, we have never eaten horses. We raise horses to work, for sport, for pleasure, but we don't raise them to eat. Americans do not want horses sent to slaughter for human consumption any more than you would want your dog or cat sent to slaughter for human consumption. And I would just like to talk about a few misconceptions that surround this issue. And the first one is that I tried to keep my notes in order here. This is actually, as part of my job, my first time ever testifying, so bear with me. And I'm going to be brief because I know you have a lot of other things to do and people to talk to. One of the myths is that without horse slaughter, that we're going Several years ago, we had 8 plants, slaughterhouses that killed approximately 350,000 horses. That dwindled down to 3 plants in 2006 that were killing approximately 100,000 horses. Since those plants were closed in the United States, there has been no documented rise in horse abuse. In fact, according to the records that I got from the Georgia Department of Agriculture, from 2006 to 2008, the number of abandoned animals had gone down from around 300 to around 150 per year. Nationally, there has been no increase. Another myth surrounding this issue is that the horses that go to slaughter are unwanted, sick, old, unusable horses. Actually, according to the USDA standards, 92% of these horses are healthy. They are horses that were stolen from people's farms. They are horses that were sold unknowingly or unwittingly to killer buyers at auction. The killer buyers, of course, want to buy the fattest, largest horses who can make the long, grueling trip to the slaughterhouse. Horse owners do have options as what to do when they would like to sell their houses. I used to be in the house business. And in times of economic hardship, people do become creative and resourceful. As the director of HSUS, I get all the cruelty calls that we have in the state, and that's usually about 1 a day where people have no other alternative and they call me. In the past 16 months, I've had 1 call on horses, and I think Department of Ag was already working with that gentleman, and I think he kept his horses. They were being underfed. But people are going to great lengths to keep their animals, which they should, because this is their responsibility. One option is humane euthanasia. And that brings up another point. The slaughterhouse is not humane euthanasia. And we have documented this well with undercover footage of horses being whipped and abused, of being injured during the process. And since horses are so flighty, it is very hard to catch them with a captive bolt. So I will spare you all the details of what goes on, but this is not humane slaughter. and I'm just about in conclusion here. Even with the slaughterhouses being closed, we do have exportation, and that is why we need a federal ban. Georgia, right now, around the country, is very respected. Our Department of Agriculture laws and regulations are very respected around the country. And we are looked to as people who take care of our horses. 70% in a recent poll of Americans are against this ban. 63% of your constituents are pet owners. Most of them, I feel sure, would be against the slaughter of horses for food. We are leaders now. Let's keep it this way. I thank you for what you've done for horses in the past, and I urge you not to support this bill, even though I'm crazy about Terry England. Yes, and I meant that in a very nice way. Sorry. Yes, Dr. Maddox. Okay. All right.
I guess the question.
That's a good thing. You talked to death while I'm introducing this bill.
Is it on now? I guess the question that I have is, we do have a problem in the United States and here in Georgia with people as far as abandoned horses. Mm-hmm. Down in my area, in Hazelhurst area, down in there, as Terry said, and it's true. You pull up at the horse show one night, and when you get ready to leave, you've got horses tied out, simply saying, please take care of them, we can't anymore. So I guess my question to you is, what do you want us to do about that? I mean, are y'all willing to, the Humane Society, willing to open new facilities and fund these to take care of all these horses, abandoned horses, or, I mean, what?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you telling me about that problem. If you do have a problem, feel free to call me. We have just opened, we have one 1,200-acre facility, and we have just opened another 1,100-acre facility, and we have helped horses in the past when we have had disasters and hard times. So please call me and let's discuss this. Ultimately, it does fall back. I think people, when they have animals, need to be responsible for them. And also, as human beings, we do need to help each other in times of crisis.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Cheryl, are you aware that when these animals have to be euthanized, being a veterinarian, I've had to euthanize some that from old age, some from injuries, etc. And a lot of these owners now, in Grady County, especially down in my area, they will not let them lay out in the woods anymore. They have to be buried. And we've got a lot of urban farmers, I mean not farmers, but owners who are in town, and they got the pets inside, and they don't have any land to dig a hole on. So what do you suppose, or not suppose, but propose for these people to do with these animals if they're euthanized? They kept them until they're too old to do anything, and they finally get down and have to be euthanized. How are they going to dispose of the body?
Right. And there are ways to do that, and there are rendering plants, it's my understanding, that will pick them up. I will be glad to look into that for you, Dr. Maddox, and work with you.
Can you help me understand, is the issue that you have is, I mean, would it matter whether there was a humane way of slaughtering them or not in terms of whether you would support or oppose this legislation?
Well, we feel like there should be other options instead of saying, let's just slaughter. There are abandoned animals, dogs now, because of economic crisis also. So we don't just say, well, let's slaughter them and feed them, to humans. We're looking for different alternatives. One is sanctuaries, one is financial help, one is people taking responsibility, one is neighbors helping neighbors. So the first answer that we want to look at is not let's just kill.
Okay, but I guess what I'm asking is, so it would not make any difference whether, in your eyes, there was humane slaughter or not humane slaughter. You're opposed to slaughter under any circumstances.
The slaughter is never humane, or in slaughterhouses. Let me say that it's rarely humane. The entire process. What we are saying is that horses are not eaten here, and that we don't want them slaughtered for human consumption. That is what this bill's about. HB 503, that's the federal bill, is about slaughtering horses for human consumption. This is race horses that have been slaughtered, purebred race horses, carriage horses, ponies, pregnant mares, and then they're sent to Europe and Japan to eat.
And if they were, I'm off again, but if they were eaten here, would that make a difference to you?
I would not venture to say, because I would not know the mood of the American people if we ate horses.
All right, well, let me ask you one other question, and help me understand this. I guess what I'm hearing is it's because they're pets, but what to you intellectually is the difference between slaughtering cows and slaughtering horses? Is it the fact that we keep horses as pets?
We have a lot of farm production animals which we slaughter for food. Horses are not one of them. One of the big things is, and there have been people in Washington who've testified to this, is that their horses are stolen. In California, when they banned the slaughter, the horse theft went down by 34%. A lot of people go to auction thinking they're selling their horse to someone who's going to put it on the farm, and it goes straight to the slaughterhouse. So it's a very deceitful practice.
Well, we don't have a lot of cattle theft up in my neck of the woods, but that does happen elsewhere. If we ban the slaughter of cows, I would assume that cattle theft would go down as well. So again, what I'm trying to understand is, I understand that we don't eat the food here, but I'm trying to understand why it's not an apples-to-apples comparison between cows, which we do eat here, and horses, which we don't eat here, in terms of, I understand we don't eat them here, but somebody does, and I'm trying to understand what the difference is between, and maybe your organization has a position against cow slaughter as well, but I'm just trying to figure out what the difference is between beef cattle and horse, and just in terms of the slaughter and consumption.
Right. We do. Right. We do not have a policy against slaughtering food animals. We believe they should be humanely treated up until that point, and the slaughter should be as painless as possible. But we do not have any policy against slaughtering food animals. The horse is not a food animal. Right. We do not consider them a food animal, just like the cat or dog.
Thank you. There's one issue that has not been brought up and discussed, and that's these horses that develop bad dispositions. In prior years, when we did have slaughter, that become the solution to some of these horses that were actually dangerous to people. This is a situation with people that they end up for whatever reason. A lot of times that horse becomes dangerous because of mistreatment. Regardless of the reason, you've got a safety factor here. And I think that is serious, because if we keep these horses around and they reproduce, then this is genetic causes, then you're increasing the danger of people owning horses. And I think one of the positives is it gives, when you do have slaughter and you have the opportunity to dispose of these animals, I think that it's a safety factor here. And I will ask the question that you've spoken about horses slaughtered for consumption. Would y'all support a slaughter facility that prohibited from to be sold for human consumption that had humane slaughter as is implied on feed animals slaughter plan?
Ask me the question one more time.
Would you support a slaughter facility in this country that prohibited horses being speak, being sold for human consumption. Because most of it in the past, when we had slaughter in this country, was sold for pet food. Some of it was exported to countries where it is consumed back here. But the biggest market, according to what I was told, was the pet food industry.
Okay. Horses have not actually been used in pet food since 1971. That was banned then. And this bill that is being opposed nationally is about horses just for human consumption. And getting back to your dangerous horse, I agree with you. There are horses that are dangerous. And I think it is a responsibility of that person to see that this horse is humanely euthanized, which, as you know, cost around $225, which is about a month's food, from what I understand.
Quick comment, Mr. Chairman. Mr. McCauley, I certainly have a soft spot here for what we're talking about. But one of my concerns would be is when we transport these animals into another country. That transport process is a long, arduous journey and causes that much more stress. And I would dare say, I believe, too, that the process in our country can be more humanely done versus sending to another country. But my main point, I guess, would be I'll say personally that I would love to work with you because I've not heard of the sanctuary to give an option for these animals. And I would certainly like to work with your group to make sure we have some public services messages. Certainly in feed and feed stores, we put that information up and post it. So when somebody does have a situation that they need to and are required to, for whatever reason, to dispose of a horse or get rid of a horse they can't maintain and leave him out in the pastures to half starve to death, which is worse for me than putting something out of his misery, in that situation, that we work to that end. I'd be certainly glad to work with you on that to make sure we can get some of that information out because I was not aware of that.
Thank you. Well, let me say our horse sanctuaries are not in Georgia, although there are horse sanctuaries here. And I think ultimately the responsibility of an owner is to find a way to take care of the animal that they have committed to. As far as, and I understand your point about these horses being shipped to Mexico and Canada. They certainly have a brutal death there. And even with our regulations, they have a brutal death here and a long transport. And that's been documented in this country. But we would do everything if you have issues. Like I said, I've only been called once. I think we were called last year or a year and a half ago on a Pike County case where 99 horses were taken in, and we did help with those. So the first thing would be owner responsibility, and the second thing is community responsibility. You're only allowed one, Dr. Maddox. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Your time's up.
All right. Cheryl, humane mercy killing or euthanasia is debated so many times in different species and different ways. Even in humans now, they have to have lethal injection rather than electrocution, etc. Over the killing plants for cattle and hogs and chickens and different ways that they're killed, stunning and so forth, and then shooting. When these animals are out on the farm and they got a broken leg, the farmer calls you and then he says his leg's broken. I'm sorry, I can't do anything for it. Most of them are shot. If I go out, I usually would give the concentrated barbiturates out there and there'd be a fee for it. But why does the Humane Society so drastically oppose shooting for euthanasia?
I think that would be as you said, as a last resort, because obviously the injection is a lot more humane. So that's what we're saying. We have a responsibility first to be the least suffering possible. The least suffering possible. thank you all very much. I'm sure I'll be getting a lot of calls now. We would like to help. We always extend our help to the Department of Agriculture. So, thank you very much. I have a very small yard.
John, you or Mr. Jim want to
Let Jim start off, if you don't mind. He's off.
Mr. Chairman, members, thank you for the opportunity to sit here before you. Just want to make you aware that the Agriculture Commodity Commission for Equine, is who I represent, and that we are in favor of this bill. I appreciate all of your questions, because they're questions that we would have asked as well. So thank you for that. We at the Commission have been working hard to try to understand and help with this issue, and it's an issue that is sensitive, and we understand the sensitivity of it. But we also understand that the equine industry is a huge industry in the state of Georgia, represents over $1 billion worth of impact here in our state, and the importance of keeping this industry alive and well is important to all of us and all of our various areas within the state. And this bill will help to go towards keeping this industry alive. We understand that euthanasia and the issues that we've just been discussing here are an issue, but the bottom end of the horse industry is just gone. As Mr. England has stated in the bill, there are horses that are selling for $4 or $5 a head in various markets around our state. People that are uneducated will go buy them for their children, and I can appreciate who asked the question about the rogue horses. That's absolutely a huge issue for us in trying to keep the safety of these animals, not only for themselves but for the people that own them, quite high. And the responsibility does lie on the horse owner, but we also want to understand that things do occur out there, and these horses that are rogue need a place to go, and they can be. In the United States, horses were bringing $1.25 a pound when we were harvesting them. Right now, in Mexico, they're bringing 18 cents a pound, which also leads to what we feel like could be more issues. Wyoming, Utah, Missouri, South Dakota, as you all know, have already passed this legislation, and we here at the Commodity Commission for Equine in Georgia would be very supportive of you passing this.
Well, sir, my name's John Clements. I'm on the Commodity Commission for Equine too. One thing that Jim was touching on was that we have the horses are so cheap now. People can go afford to buy one, but they can't afford to feed him. This is something that I got into. Was interviewed by, I believe it was the Gainesville Times, and they did not realize, what the expense was. Most of the expense is not the purchase; it's the upkeep. And most of the people that I go, and I'm one of these. I go to the people in the horse business, that have them. I go to the shows, I go to meetings and such. And this is one of our bigger problems. We don't have any place to go with the horses that nobody wants. And as Representative England was talking about, I went to a sale the other day, said lock your trailer because you may have a horse or two more than what you wanted when you started. That's all I got. You got any questions? Thank you.
Anybody else want to talk about a hall?
Chairman, just a couple of wrap-up comments. The elimination of an option or for the disposition of the animals does nothing to solve the problem. It'll only add to it. Right now, with approximately 90 to 100,000 horses being added to the rolls of unwanted horses every year, if we try to open rescue facilities for those animals, if you took 30 horses per rescue facility, it'd wind up being about 2,700 new facilities per year, every year. The cost, not just feed, but feed, supplements, and a few other things, not including vet care, is going to run you about $1,825 an animal per year. So you can see that the costs add up dramatically and exponentially. As both gentlemen alluded to from the Equine Commodity Commission, this is an issue that I've been helping Sue Wallace from Wyoming and Dave Sigestad from North Dakota for the last 2 years at NCSL to try to figure out a good solution for. And this resolution is one that's very similar to one being passed in many states at this point in time. But, Mr. Chairman, if there are no questions, I'll yield the floor.
I have one or two. I have heard, and I don't know. Does the zoo out here import horse meat to feed them animals?
Yes. Most zoos do import horses. Most zoos in the United States currently import horse meat for consumption or for feeding of the animals at the zoos.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Well, we've heard both sides, and I can really sympathize with the Humane Society's concerns. But with the importance we have of trying to take care of all this abundance of unwanted horses and so forth, I move that this bill do pass.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? No. Okay. Ever how many it is? You want to count on that? Be glad to do it. What do you mean? All right, anybody have anything else? Thank y'all for coming. We had one other bill that the author wanted to pull because it needed some work, a little dab of work, I think. And y'all pay attention to the boss here's notices, because we're liable to start having meetings on the spur of the moment as time winds down. So thank y'all again for coming. Huh? 6:30 would be good, Miss Payton.